I see your demons, I'm telling them it's on sight. I'm just playing, I don't fight, I do pray. I only go the way of Mr. Yahweh.
Mr. Chris,
yes,
welcome to the Profitable Cleaner. Thank you so much for being here,
thanks
brother.
for having me on.
Yeah,
Excited.
man. Excited to kick off the day with you. You were recommended by one of our, I would say he became very close to us recently. We heard him at an event. Now he's speaking at our event.
Nice.
And he's been on this podcast before. Being recommended by Rocky definitely sets the standard over here.
Yeah, right. It's got big shoes to fill because he is a beast as far as when it comes to talking and just a man. He's awesome.
Yeah. Now I can see why you guys hang out though. I get a very similar like stillness and gratitude
cool.
from y'all.
Yeah.
He just came back from Europe and he did bring us this beautiful book. So shout out.
Yeah.
Why this book?
That book. So I like to and recently is like if I get invited somewhere or we had a meeting in LA a couple weeks ago and we just brought gifts, and so I think it's impactful. And then professionally, in my professional life, this book this year has impacted it the most. This book, it's on the cover, Unreasonable Hospitality. So Will is the author, but he also ran this. Of course, my mind is going blank. He ran this Michelin star restaurant in New York. I forget the name of it, but how they got to the Michelin star is what's in the book. And it wasn't from having amazing food. That was a byproduct. Obviously you have to have amazing food to get a Michelin star, but it was also because of how he ran the restaurant and just the little things he did. So every chapter is about just like how they did certain things within the restaurant and just like takeaways. And I'm reading it and like I work in advertising. Like how could I possibly use what he did with a restaurant to what I do in advertising? And it's about how you treat your clients, how you treat your team, how you can even like treat your wife or your kids or whatever. So there's just a lot of like certain applications you can be like, okay, well, he started a program. He understood that someone on his team that was washing dishes is really into beer. Well, they're not going to be a good dishwasher if all they think about all day is beer. So he gave them the beer program. And then the beer program went on to be the best in New York City. Huh. And it's like, and same with coffee and same with like guests. He tells a story about, it's a very expensive restaurant. I mean, you're dropping like $1,000 on food. These people came in and they had their suitcases with them, right? They're about to fly home and they are talking about and they came to New York City to eat. And it's like their last day of 3 days. And they said like, man, the one thing we didn't get was a New York City hot dog. The waiter overheard it, told Will. Will ran out the front door, got a hot dog, took it back to the chef, and he was like, plate this. And the chef was like, no. He was like, plate it. So like they had to find, like they didn't have ketchup at the restaurant, so they had to like put ketchup packets out on the plate, and he like made this amazing thing and then like handed them the hot dog and like made their day. Like they talk about that probably forever now because they got everything they wanted. It's just like the little stuff that he talks about. I think follow up with me after you've read it because you'll be like, dang, this book is incredible. I can't stop thinking about that book.
That story alone makes because it plays because right, the chef's like, this goes against everything I do, and it's like, that doesn't matter. It's about the customer. The rest of them will serve them with what we offer, but we need to make their day. No, I'm excited to read it. But that also speaks volumes of you, man. For those that don't know you, give us that quick 1 minute rundown. What do you do?
Oh, geez. Yeah, so I think personally, I like my identity is found in Christ, and that's, kind of what guides me. I think forever when someone's like, hey, what do you do? And it's like, oh, I'm a this. Well, that can be taken from me at any moment. Like I'm a senior art producer at Saatchi Saatchi, which we are a global brand, and we create content for Toyota, one of the largest car manufacturers in the world. That's super cool. And everyone's like, oh, tell me more about that. I was like, but I can get fired tomorrow and then I'm not that anymore. And so then if all my identity is found in that thing, well, then I'm crushed.
Yeah.
Well, it's not. It's same with like, I'm a husband to Shelby, like the love of my life, the greatest girl I ever met in the world. But not to be morbid, but she can be taken from me tomorrow or today.
100%.
And so if my identity is found in her, that can be like, but what I can't lose is my identity in Christ. And so that's kind of like what I like to, and it frames life a lot different. Like life gets a lot simpler when you look at it that way, I think. So that's kind of my deal. And then, professionally, I manage my wife and I's business with her. She has Whitten Media, which she just quit her job.
Nice.
So bless us up. So she is running a company she likes to go after Fortune 500 and shoot events. And so she's photo video for events and large corporate events. And I help her with that. And then we have Whitten Productions, which kind of like is stale right now because I have a full-time job with Saatchi and Saatchi. And that's just a quick rundown for me.
Go for it. I know you have a question.
No, I would say I wouldn't say that is a quick rundown, but there's a lot of substance and depth there. And I want to actually go back to the identity thing, because before we hit record here, you were talking about how you knew Rocky, and Rocky's been on this podcast and speaking at our event. And you said that you went through his identity mapping a few different times. I went through his identity mapping once, and how you kind of teed up your introduction of who you are makes sense, knowing that you went through that identity map. I'm curious. So like when I introduce myself now, I talk about being a connector, an initiator, and a provider.
Yeah.
Do you remember your three
I
identity
knew you were going to
maps?
ask me this. I know one of them's connector in it, and I have my notebook somewhere. I need to find it. We just moved to a new place in December, so everything's kind of still. But Rocky, don't get mad. But I know one of them is connector, and I don't remember the other two.
I think but for example, mine was I'm the same. Rocky's gonna be like, guys.
Well,
really?
I remember I just
mine is
listened
challenger
to
and
y'all's
connector and something else.
Initiator.
Yeah.
Is it? It's
Yeah.
for sure challenger and connector.
Yeah.
But I always start my introduction similar to. I always say man of God.
Yeah.
That's like.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's top before, because the other ones, they're part of me. I guess they're part of who I am, but they're not.
Yeah.
Son of God,
well,
man of God.
They're created through God.
Yeah,
right?
that's a different. Why do you think people don't think the way you just explained it though? Because it is simple. I agree. When you think, I think like you do. I'm like, good. I might drop tomorrow. My partner might drop tomorrow. That's why I keep my identity centered in Christ. But not a lot of people can confidently and willingly say that. They're like, no, my wife dying. No, my business dying. Like, no, it's who I am.
I don't know. I mean, we're not taught to do that. I mean, if the three of us walked out of here today and went to a networking event, and we were the three people that were like, "What do you do?" And we're like, "My identity is found in Christ." People are like, well, "Who are these weirdos?"
Yeah,
like, we're here to like network about our jobs. So I think it's that part, right? But the other is, I think it's an American thing that we don't talk about death or like losing stuff because we're so wrapped up. And I listened to something recently, and like there's this whole community, and they think about death like every hour of every day, and they're the most like peaceful, at ease community with life than anyone in the world. It's like, I think it came out of that blue zone thing, but it's like this community that they're like so centered around like the idea, and not like morbidly
like
death, but it's like, life's special.
Yeah.
And that we get to be here. And so if we just understand that walking to the bus stop could end it all. It sounds crazy to talk about. But yeah, it's just like holding things precious and also holding things loosely.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's actually that crazy to talk about, because like, let's apply it to business. We think about like, what if our business fails? What if our business dies?
Right.
What if we lose this account? Like, people think about that often.
Do we?
What? I mean, I guess I'll speak for myself. Yeah. I have. Like.
So when was the last time you had a conversation about the business dying? Not losing an account, the business dying.
I mean, I don't know if I've had a conversation about it, but I've had thoughts about it. Yeah, absolutely. And that's more common, I would say, than thinking of like, oh, what if I am on my last breath,
right?
And how am I feeling in that moment, right?
Yeah.
So, you said that's an American thing. I actually agree with you.
I would agree with that too.
Why do you think that is?
I have no idea. I don't know. I think it's because we do get so wrapped up in the clothes we wear, what we drive, all of that stuff. It's like, oh, if that was stripped from me, then I'm nothing.
Yeah.
But framing it, and my wife and I had this conversation the other day because we're venturing into real estate, and we're like putting everything on buying new properties instead of like saving or whatever. And I'm like, if we lose at this, then we're zeroed. And she's like, yeah, but what's the worst could happen? We just go move in with your parents or my parents, whatever. Like,
wow,
we'll figure it out. And I'm like, oh, dope. She's down for whatever.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. So I think it's just a perspective of life of like, yeah, don't do anything stupid.
Yeah, don't go play with death either.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the extreme of loss always is we suffer more in imagination than reality. I think like Marcus Aurelius said that. And like the real estate example, it's like, yeah, what if we lose? Okay, we're still okay.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, if I'm on my deathbed and I'm surrounded by family and you're a believer, I'm still okay.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like actually never as bad as
right
as we make it seem, which is something I think a lot of people like can really go down this negative rabbit hole of like, what if?
Yeah.
Well, I think like the question I asked myself actually, because I like talking about death. I actually enjoy the conversation, not of like, how would you like to die? Not that type of death, but like, I always ask myself, do I 100% believe in eternal life? Do I truly, to my core, believe in heaven? Yes. Then cool. I'm ready when he's ready, right? And I don't know if a lot of people can confidently be like, because we start thinking of everything that you're going to leave behind, all the loss, and we forget that there's more. So that's an interesting topic on death. I think a lot of people are like, I'm ready to die. No one has a will written, and they don't have their funeral expenses set up. Most people don't even have a funeral plan.
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, are you really ready?
Well, then we get into finances, boys.
Yeah, I know.
No.
Is it worth planning a funeral prior to? Or does that mean that you're, because you got to pay, right? You got to start paying your monthlies.
You don't want to put that burden on somebody else.
I'm underqualified to talk about this because I don't have my funeral plan.
Yeah,
me neither. So we're all unqualified or qualified to talk about it. What about life insurance, though? You got life insurance?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So we're somewhere. We're getting somewhere. We're all protected by life insurance, but we don't have a funeral.
So I actually think there's a connection here, and I want to bring it back. So you said connect it, or you find your identity in Christ. I think that's awesome, and I could feel the confidence when you said that. Going back to the Rocky identity mapping, you said connector. You bring in this book, Unreasonable Hospitality, and before the show, you said, hey, if we want to talk about a specific topic, maybe networking.
Yeah.
And you made a comment before we hit record. You're like, everything in my business and life today has been relationships.
Yeah.
So I think there is a connection or a common theme there of kind of who you are. So when you hear, or when you say everything in my life has been relationships and you think of networking, you bring an Unreasonable Hospitality book. Talk to me more about that.
Yeah. I mean, I do mentor a lot of people coming up in the photo and video business, and they look at my career and like, I want to do that. I want to work for Toyota or whoever. How do I get there? Or can I come work for you? Because we, like in my position, we hire a lot.
Yeah.
Photographers and directors, and I have to look at people's portfolio and a lot of times to shoot cars, it's tough. Like you're shooting a mirror. So you have to be very talented at that specific genre of photography or video. So guys are like, I want to do that. I was like, well, this is 15 year. I didn't get to this point, and I didn't get like super happy until I was like after 15 years of like doing the thing over and over and meeting people and not burning a bridge, and like met this person 5 years ago and now I'm at this job at Saatchi. And so I think bringing it back to people is like, we want it now, we want it instantly. We're taught that we need to, but no one wants to stay in the crappy part for a long period of time to get where they need to be. Yeah. And so that with relationships is like being just with people throughout doing the free work, doing, the low paid work, and building relationships over time. And so I think I'm kind of getting off on a tangent and sidetracked, but the point is like just constant evolution and sitting with people and never burning a bridge. And I think, one of the questions that you guys sent over was like, what's a quote that you live by? And I was like, I don't really have one, but like, it's always just be nice. Yeah. No matter what. Yesterday sucked. Like I didn't get to do anything that I wanted to do. I took time off work after coming back from a trip, and like my wife's battery died, like all this stuff happened. And I had like the to-do list that I wanted to do, like none of it got done. And I want to be pissed. And I wanted to blow up on everyone that I talked to. Like I got locked out of my computer. The property management, like our HOA property management decided to change all the locks on our like gate codes and all the stuff. And they didn't send me an email. And I like called them and wanted to like just be old Chris. And I was like, no, that's not the core. I literally just wrote someone that you should be nice. Like why, how could I not do that? And so, I think that's at the core, and just building relationships over time. I think.
And how one of the things is, iron sharpens iron, walk with the wise and you shall be wise, right? Proverbs 13:20, or walk with the fools and you'll be in harm. I don't quote the exact verse, but how do you discern when you meet somebody? I should keep this person in my circle. I should maybe not put this person, or do you never make that decision meeting people and you just kind of because there's networkers that are just like, it's a contact sport, which, yes, and they're just boom, network, like business card, number. And then there's some, like myself, I don't do that. I'm more like figure out if I can figure the person out before I want to talk, or before I want to continue outside of this event or this. Yeah. This, how do you discern?
Well, I think there's all different sorts of relationships in life, and I have a sheet at home, but it's like you have a pastoral relationship, you have a mentorship relationship, you have a friendship, you have like all these different ones, and like in the inner circle, there's like three dudes. That's it, and they get everything, and they give everything, right? And then you have your mentorships that you're giving, you're not receiving anything, and that's fine. And then you have, like, I forget all of them, but you just have to figure out is like, there's only a few people that get into the inner circle, and that's just time, like under pressure. And like, they see, like my best friend, Brian, who's also a business partner, like he's seen me at my worst and stuck with me. And him and his wife, like, have seen me at my absolute lowest point, and they didn't like run away. I was like, all right. And that same with them. And so,
what's up, Profitable Cleaner listeners? Quick question for you. Are you using 5 to 7 different platforms just to manage the everyday operations of your commercial cleaning company? If so, let us help you consolidate that into one platform. Introducing you, uSource. Go to usource.com, book your free demo today, and actually get started on your trial for 60 days. No charge for 60 days, all from time and attendance to reporting, vendor management, operations, sales. It's time you stop using 5 to 7 platforms and consolidate into one. So listeners, don't forget, go to usource.com and start your account today.
Like, especially with like, if you guys too are probably in this position where people want a lot of your time, and it's like, okay, you can have it, but here's the cost. And it's not a dollar amount, but like, you need to do all the work to get in front of me. And that may mean, like, I used to do this when I first we came to a new church and like people hear what you do and like, oh, people are like, oh, I want to talk to you. I was like, all right, well, send me 3 times this week that work for you and I'll pick one. Well, half the people won't do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they're like, well, or they'll forget or whatever. And then you see them the next Sunday and they're like, yo, we should have dinner or lunch or coffee. I'm like, send me 3 times and I'll pick one. And then it's like, yo, I was like, I'm done. I know. It's like after the 3rd time of someone asking me to go get coffee, it's like either you're just like saying the same thing over because you think it's nice or whatever. It's like, no, I'm good. I don't need to meet with you. Not to be like rude or whatever. It's like, but my time's valuable and like I'm willing to give it all. I'll answer all your questions for free. That's like one piece of the relationship thing is like always be willing to give away everything that you've learned.
Yeah.
And then if people will hold it valuable and some stuff. And then if you are asking to be mentored by someone else, make sure that you're honoring of their time and bring them a gift and, pay for coffee, show up early, all of that stuff. Like,
yeah,
dude, when someone asked me, and I know I was a couple minutes late here, but if someone asked me to mentor them and then they're late, done.
Yeah.
Like that's the only meeting. And I don't care. Like I get it. Kids, all that stuff, but like just be honest. Like, hey man, I'm just really bad at managing time. Okay, well let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Because if you can't show up on time to anything, then I'm a big time person. But
no, but I like that you're very strategic in how you approach your relationships, and I think that's very smart. There's like whether we agree there's a system or not, there is a system, and I do agree. One of our mentors said like, you have to be careful. You have to be close enough where they feel they can reach you, but not too close where they can take your time up because you'll fall into that trap very fast. He's like, you put a person in between or I love how you said it. There's not a cost of money to get to me. There's just a cost of steps.
Yeah. It's like a cost
to see the commitment.
Yeah,
that you
exactly.
have.
A cost of commitment.
Yeah.
Like when he was talking, I was thinking about commitment before movement.
Yeah,
Actually,
exactly.
We say this in sales.
Yeah.
Hey, they got to commit before we move.
Yeah.
Like a lot of prospects will say, hey,
do I send them this proposal?
Yeah, exactly.
Do I start doing this? And then I'm like, well, did they commit to a next meeting? No.
Yeah.
Relax.
So
people trip out. The prospect will trip out. They're like, wait, he's not sending me
because
they'll reach out to you like, hey man, you didn't. Oh, okay, you are interested. Okay, cool. I'll start moving for you now.
Yeah, all of a sudden you do like a bunch of like you invest a lot of your energy and time in something that might not be rewarded. I really actually like how you broke that down from a relational piece because I've been guilty of both. I've been guilty of trying to get with people that probably weren't respecting the time, and I've probably been unrespectful of people's times.
Right. Totally.
Throughout my career. But we do get asked a lot. Like, hey, can we do this? Can I pick your brain?
Can I call you? Or they send us this long messages.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like we try to put ourselves in a position of serve, but we were speaking to a really awesome janitorial leader yesterday. His name's Edwin Eaton. Dude runs an awesome janitorial company, has a software company. He's a big time leader in the industry. And anyone that like we send him, he does give the time and day to, but he's like, hey, I got 30 minutes at this time. If this works, great. And then he kind of sees where it unfolds, but he's never too good for the initial contact.
Right.
Yeah.
But you have to make the initial contact.
So here's a question for you. I'm curious your answer on this one. So that's how you, Chris, how I discern or like I always pay to be in rooms. That's just my theory.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer. If I want his time, I'm going to pay. Do you take the same approach when it's couples? Because that's a
really great question.
Because a lot of the times we go on our own, and then our wives, our partners, even kids, sometimes they're like, what is he doing? Then I see some really strong couples that network together, regardless if they do business or not together. Do y'all... Is that a different inner circle? Is there a different networking? How do you...
That's a good... I've never thought about it because we are blessed at our church that, I started at that church single and met my wife there.
Oh, that's amazing.
And the minute, like, the first date happened, then the whole, because we were pretty small back then, the whole church was like, what are you doing? Like, who, you know, and we're going to go to dinner with you. And so you have these, like, leaders at the church that are, like, all of a sudden, like, in your business.
Yeah.
Because they want to make sure that you're walking in faith with your, like, this person, and you're, you know, because dating can be tricky.
Yeah.
Especially inside of the church with two people that serve on the, you know, our serve team and all this stuff. And so I've never thought about, because there are certain couples that you need to learn and grow from. And, like, we've just been so blessed that if Shelby and I asked to go to dinner with a couple, or that we know as walk through stuff that we're about to walk through, whether it's with kids or like problems in the marriage or whatever, that they're just so willing to, like, give that time. But yeah, I've never, like, it's the same mentality of, like, super honoring, super grateful, like, pay for dinner or whatever it is. And, like, a lot of times, like, people treat us to dinner after we ask them to dinner. And so it's just, you know, it's that honor first. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, we need something from them.
Is that how you think networking is?
Not necessarily all networking.
Yeah.
But, like, if I, let's say tomorrow, I'm like, I get inspired by this, and I'm like, I can start. I see a niche in the cleaning industry at this certain thing, and I can start this business. Well, I know you guys now.
Yeah.
I'm going to pay for your time. Yeah. Or whatever it is. I'm going to, because I need something from you that I don't have, that I don't possess. And so, yeah, that's a networking. Like, you either give, take, or receive, you know?
Yeah. I think, I'm just curious now, because there is a science to networking, and there is a lot of intention that goes into it. Because there's people that just go to networking events. We've all been there. You could tell they've been there to, like, 30 of them, and they never make anything of it.
Yeah.
They do it more for ego, like, so people could see my face. Let me ask you, before you go to an event, do you do any research prior to, or do you go, you know what, where I'm currently at in my life, I'm looking for this, I'm looking to give this. If it finds, then I'm going to double down on the relationship. If not, well, I'm still going to be, you know, exchange contact info. I
think it, you know, I think you should do, you know, I always like to see who's in the room, especially, like, I remember when WeWork first came to Dallas, and I had friends that worked for them, and they're like, you should come join because you're freelance and this and that. And I'm like, well, who's your membership made of? And they were like, well, we can't share that information with you. And I'm like, well, then I don't want to, unless you can show me it comprises of, like, commercial real estate agents and these types of genres that don't open any doors for me in my business, then I don't want to come.
Yeah.
And I do a ton of research of, like, who's coming. And even this, you know, I'm sitting on a beach in Amalfi Coast, and I'm like, why would I be on a cleaning podcast? Like, what value can I add to them? And then I started listening and doing research on you guys. Like, oh, it's so much more than that. It's about, like, the value that I mean, my wife was like, what are you going to talk about? And I'm like, relationships. Like, the value of, like, knowing you guys now opens doors down the road potentially, or you guys may have, like, or my homie over here, he's like, oh man, I want to get into shooting cars. Like, I can know Chris now. And so there's just so many different avenues that you could weave out of anything.
Yeah.
And so I just love the networking possibilities of just life sometimes.
Yeah. Kind of funny. We actually, last time, one of our most recent episodes, we broke down the word networking, and you had a really good analogy. If you break down the word networking, it's like you cast a net and then you work it.
Oh, that's cool.
Like, right? And we actually never...
You're a man, baby.
We never looked at the official definition, but you were like, this makes sense in my head. And I was like, that actually makes sense in my head, too. Like, you put people in a room at an event, you cast your net, bring back the net, and then you start to work it. Yeah. I think the big thing, though, like when you're talking about relationships and networking, I think the people that are really great at it, like let's take a guy we both know, Rocky, you serve first. And if you can like truly pour on to someone, I think there's like this organic synergy about serving someone that's worth it that like brings back. And you had mentioned that you're part of like a men's group. You're obviously involved in the church. You seem like you seek mentorship and learning. Would that be correct?
Yeah.
Talk to me more about how that's played a role into your career, your life, and maybe just like your presence. You have a very like,
because I will say a lot of the people like we've never owned we've never owned a cleaning company, but we have a cleaning podcast. We never owned a cleaning company, and we have an event, and it's just like we know how to network, but we know how to connect with people.
You're
so we'll bring the guests, or we have access to mentors that people want access to, but they don't. But that's because we actively, like you, seek wisdom, just learning. We're like sponges. We want to, and we provide either money, value, whatever we got to do. So, we could tell that you have a very strong group of men like in your corner.
Yeah, and I think it wasn't always like that. Like in my 20s, coming out of college, like I was fortunate to work for somebody, and we traveled the world. Like for 3 years, I think it ended up being like 2 of those years I was gone. Like traveling. And so you're traveling, like staying at the best hotels in the world, and you come home and you're only making $30,000, $40,000 a year, and you're still spending money like you're at the Ritz when you're at Dow, And so if I would have had people around me being like, dude, what are you doing? Like you're going to go broke. Like you are broke. Like, are you setting any money aside? Like what? Like, and so it wasn't until like just kind of being kicked in the face a bunch where you're like, oh, I need to change all of this and stop drinking so much, stop smoking cigarettes, like get your fitness back, where it needs to be. And then when you start putting yourselves in those rooms, like I joined a CrossFit gym in 2000 and
CrossFit.
I think 2010 or 11. And so it was kind of, CrossFit had this big wave, and then I was kind of still on the rise up when it was still like pretty, I mean, say what you will about CrossFit, but when you get a bunch of people in a room that all they care about is getting fit and it's expensive, well, then you're going to be around a lot of people that are highly motivated in both fitness and in their professional life.
100%. That's why I love CrossFit.
And so then you start, okay, I have all these people that are like good at their jobs and good at fitness or want to be good at fitness. And so now you have this group that's like, okay, we're all like-minded individuals of highly achieving, high functioning. So then it was like, it started to click. Like, I need to be in these rooms. And now everyone says it like what's the saying? It's like you're
a product of people.
Close to 5 people around you, whatever.
Exactly.
And so it's so true. And so then you start seeking more and more. And then on the rise of YouTube with like the Andy Elliott's, I've heard you guys talk about him, and like the Alex Hormozis and all those people of like just the motivation of like, you gotta do the work.
Yeah.
And so surrounding myself with people like that. So just I think that kind of answers your question of just how mentorship is just a big role of my life, and also like helping others.
Yeah.
And the serving piece is like, that's what we should have started with.
Yeah.
Is like, so guys, I try, like I get reached out to a lot on LinkedIn, just not only because of my title, but because photographers will reach out and want to work for us, because my title, art producer, it used to be art buyer. It's essentially means that you're seeking photographers to purchase their work.
Hey, what's up, guys? Today's episode is brought to you by Cinch. If you're ready to take your commercial cleaning business to the next level, we have you covered. Maybe you're struggling with how to bid, how to create professional-looking proposals, or just how to ensure your customers' accounts are actually being cleaned at night. Introducing Cinch Janitorial Software. Cinch is a simple, user-friendly software that eliminates these types of struggles that you probably know all too well. Cinch simplifies your entire process and will supercharge your success because they remove paperwork headaches while creating a scalable, efficient, and profitable cleaning business. Get your free demo of Cinch at cleancinch.com. They're here to turn your business into a success story. That's cleancinch, CINCH.com. It's simple, it's Cinch.
For something. And so I get a lot of photographers that reach out. Well, I'm a very like specific niche. We shoot cars and that's it. Well, photographers, like architectural photographers, will reach out and be like, hey, I'd love to work with you. And I'm like, did you even research what I do? It's like in the title, like it's in my description on LinkedIn. And so I was feeling saucy one day and this architecture photographer reached out. Great work. And you could tell it was a copy and paste post to me. And I responded and I said, hey, thanks for reaching out. What's your run rate on this template? And he was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, well, this is clearly like a copy and paste template to me, like message, what hits, because it's not personalized. And he got offended. And I was like, no. I was like, and it unfollowed me on LinkedIn. I'm like, whatever, dude. I was like, I'm just trying to help you understand that I would 100% have potentially done business with you. One, if you're in my niche, but two, I'm just trying, like, I want to help you reach more customers because you're just throwing a huge net and it's not, and it has a bunch of holes in it.
Yeah.
And so if you could take 10 minutes out of every day and personalize the message, just research like Chris Whitten. Okay, he does Toyota, looks like all of his works cars. Why would he need my business? But he may know someone in an architect, like he may know someone in Architecture Digest, which I do. And now I'm not going to give you that contact. Yeah. But before I would have, if you would have been like, hey man, struggling with getting like whatever, be vulnerable. Yeah, I'd be more than willing to serve you. Yeah. But now you're pissed off when it could have just taken like 5 minutes. And so it's this super like people got to get better at the marketing of themselves and the networking.
Well, and also taking feedback.
Yeah.
When you receive it, the best, I actually like 5 years ago sent a cold email to someone, and I'm a self-proclaimed great sales guy, right? This guy ripped me apart. He was like, look how many times he like was like, you said I in this cold email 17 times. It's way too long. And I'm reading his feedback and I'm like, holy shit, he's 100% right.
Yeah, it's cool,
and I
right?
responded back like, dude, you know what? Thank you so much. Yeah. Absolutely right. I'm going to take this and learn. I'll move on. Sure enough, we had a few meetings and got to know each other. Nothing came about it, but it ended up being like a net positive for what I was trying to accomplish at that time. So it's like people have to get better at marketing themselves, but also get better at just like taking honest feedback.
Yeah.
Well, and I think people should know that you don't. The more you know, the more you realize you don't know. Yeah. But I think 100%. It makes it like we were talking about content yesterday and all the information and everything. And I'm like, because there's content out there, there's also this thing where people expect that you know, but they're completely okay with you not knowing, but people don't say that. And we, like, that's one of the biggest things I love doing is just, hey, man, I want to help, but I actually don't know where you need help or how good I could be for you, but quick question, and then I'll just start a conversation. Yeah. And it's similar to what you said. The guy could have been like, hey, I ended up in your profile because I can't find anything over here with architectural. Anything you can, do you know anybody? Or
I'm throwing a Hail Mary.
Or what, like, what could I do? If you were in my shoes, what could I do? I love doing that. And then
I would get on the phone with them.
Yeah. Like, call me real quick.
Well said.
And so that's great. So this book is insane, but what I tell people, and I didn't have a copy, but this book called Giftology by John Ruhlin. Have you read it?
Yeah.
So Rocky had an event with his old company, and he spoke. And my wife and I are sitting there listening to him tell that it's the same. I've seen this speech now on YouTube a ton, but it was insane. And so we went out and bought that book. So tell people is read Unreasonable Hospitality and then immediately read Giftology, because it'll change your whole perspective on how you reach out. Because you're right. It's like the cold email that you guys sent, like your hit rate on that is probably like 5%.
Maybe
if you're lucky.
Well, and if you're sending 1,000, like that's not bad. Like 1,000 a day.
Yeah.
But that's a crap ton of emails.
Yeah.
But if you're sending, like in Giftology's framework, those type of gifts once a week or once a month, your hit rate is probably 75%.
100%. 100%.
And so it's interesting that people just want to like throw up these softballs and like, no, just take the time and just really throw a fast pitch in there, and then
you'll go down right down.
Yeah,
it's almost like back to that networking word. Now I'm thinking, I'm like, some people can afford like a boat and fish and do all that. Some of us, you just gotta grab that spear, old school, baby. You gotta look at the fish. You gotta kind of, how they used to hunt before, and and I think that Yagal is very good at it. When people don't answer him, like he sent him a phone. Shout out to Yagal. He sent him a burner phone. Like just sent a burner phone with one number, and it's his number. And it just says, when you're ready to, whatever his tagline for leadership is, call me.
Genius. And it's
like,
cool.
So
it's
imagine now you just have a burner phone with one number, like a school, like a movie where you're like, if I dial this, it's gonna be him.
Dude,
and then you dial, and then it's his phone,
so funny,
burner
man.
phone.
I didn't know he did that.
He did that one.
That's so funny.
He does crazy stuff like that. He does piñatas, phone. Like
my next door neighbor, shout out Neil, but he goes by Neil the Banana Peel. He's this old guy, but he's like he's like the top roofing supply salesman in the country. And he legit goes by Neil the Banana Peel. So there's those $5 banana phones that they're Bluetooth. And so every time he talks to a prospect, he just bought like 200 of them. He's like, hey, I'm Neil the Banana Peel. If that phone rings, you know it's me. And dude, people just eat it up.
That's so good.
Yeah.
But it doesn't even have to be something that you purchase. It could be like, okay, you're researching this potential prospect, and of all the social medias, you see that they're back to fishing. Like they're into fishing, or where did they go to college?
Yeah.
It's just like sending them an article on fishing. Like, hey, saw this, thought of you. Nothing to do with your business at all. And then it's just that touch. And then a month may go by, and then it's another touch. Oh, hey, I saw Michigan State won at this game. Cool game. Great score. Like that guy looks like he's going to have NBA potential. And then they're like, this guy's paying attention to
me.
Yeah, let's just have a coffee.
We're in the world of speed, automation.
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 I don't know what that is, but I feel like that's something.
I know. Yeah. Look that up, Vlad. But anyways, automation, speed, and then scale, and those things play a part. But it also takes away from me just spending 2 minutes on your LinkedIn profile, actually seeing that, hey, you do cars. You don't do architect, and it's like sending you a message about that.
Yeah.
And then we actually get somewhere.
Yeah.
It's I love networking, and I always say a mentor once told me. I don't even say I say. A mentor once told me, if you leave a room and they know more about you than you know about them, or they know about themselves, then you just ruined the part. I think Rocky added the last part. Which I love. I love how he said that. And so every time I would go to a room, I remember since college, I would just, my goal was that they knew nothing about me.
Yeah.
Which is funny because now it's like they ask you something, you got to feed them, but then you got to find a way to make it about them.
Yeah.
So like when you train yourself that way, you're like, oh no, I don't want to talk about me. I want to talk about you. Let's figure out how you
go out to like a dinner party and see how many people. If you get really good at asking questions about people and they just get in the flow of responding, how many people don't ask questions back? It's like
they don't know how much.
I saw this YouTube video. It's like start going to any social setting and just ask soft questions about that person, and take note of who actually asks questions back. It's insane. Like it's insane.
Well, because it's the thing of
no one does.
The more I talk about me to you, the more I like you.
Yeah.
Especially if you're just hitting like those, tell me more about that.
Yeah.
And that's what Rocky's deal is he's like, tell me more about that.
I know. Where do you think he got it? No wonder you're right. I've been catching that in the previous podcast. You'll throw a statement and you'll be like, so tell me more about that.
And we've been trying, my wife and I, because we hate, it's like, what do you do? So what do you do? Because we meet people all the time, and it's a buddy of mine. He was like, I always ask, what takes up most of your time?
Whoa.
Like that's just like one that you could like.
There's
a ton of questions that are not like, what's your name? What do you do? It's like, oh, that's cool. And another one is like, if you do get into the job one, is like, well, why did you pick that career? And then it's like, okay, well, then you have this whole other thing, because it's like, let's say something I know nothing about, like school. I'm a school teacher. I was like, oh, cool. Thanks for all you do. You're underpaid. That's all I got.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I teach second grade. I was like, oh, cool. Kids must be hard, huh? You know.
I know that's what we sound like, huh? Oh my God.
It is. I mean, if you know nothing about the topic, but it's like, okay, well, why did you pick that career?
Yeah.
Oh, well, my mom was a da-da-da. And then you're like, oh, you grew up here. Well, do you know? And then you have so many more avenues to run.
I always like, tell me the last thing you learned.
Well, that's good.
And it can be from anything from like a recipe to reading a book, and then it really opens up the conversation, but it's a genuine, organic conversation.
Yeah, I like that too.
Similar to like this, right? We interview a ton of podcast guests, and I'm so glad you came in. We put the topics in just to kind of give us a general census of maybe this is what we talk about, and we end up never talking about that. Yeah. Like yesterday, AI.
This is the first time we put topics. We were like, you know what? Maybe we have to be efficient.
And
went south.
We come in here, and then we just find out like, if we can engage and ask questions, the conversation is so organic and so much, it's just genuine.
I think you have, it's in your listenership may be like, man, we really want to learn this or this, but I think some of the best, like you said, the best conversations and topics are just this organic flow of like, how do we get here? I mean, I don't even remember where we started, but it's just, it's better. I mean, and because you will have certain people on, that are just very dialed on the thing, and they'll always bring it back to that thing. Yeah. Like I think the girl that you guys had on from Andy Elliott's crew, she really kept bringing it back to like her area of expertise.
Which is I think they're trained that way. It's a good thing. Totally. It's a great skill set to have, because you put me in a room, I might go left and right, around, do U-turns, and sometimes the audience does need just that. Focus,
I'm dyslexic and have ADHD, and it's like the worst combo in the world, because I'll be like talking about something like, wait, how did we get on Sour Patch Kids? Like, I don't even remember.
Sour Patch Kids.
That's so funny. Well,
I will say though, there's we mentioned that podcast yesterday too. Like, there's this book about humility and serving, and bringing it back to relationships and networking. It was saying like, if it's not true servitude if you're watching from a pedestal. And what that means is like, if I also give you advice, but I don't have an open mind and open heart to learn about myself as I give you advice or as you feed me back, then I'm not really serving. I'm just feeding my ego because I'm in a pedestal. So the reason I say that is because sometimes with listeners, and I catch myself doing that, I see a title on a podcast, I'm like, well, I want to learn that. Yeah. And I don't allow myself to be molded through the conversation and like go with the flow of what's coming. And then I'm like, it was a good podcast. Yeah. And then somebody's like, bro, there was like 15 golden nuggets. Like I just applied this, and I'm like, whoa, what did I just listen to? Like what? So I think there's also this beauty of like us as hosts not being rigid on what's coming out, serving the person in front of us, and then you teaching us what we need to know. It's a good combination. Yeah. And you did a great job at it. So
totally. Thanks. I'm going to give you a book recommendation. Okay. And maybe you've read it. Have you heard of Chris Voss? Never Split the Difference, man. One of my favorite books ever. Really talks about the art of conversation, and you can apply that conversation, whether it be sales, relationships, anything, but goes along these lines of learning how to make the other person feel heard. And you actively being present. So that doesn't surprise me that you know that book.
The mirroring and all that.
Yeah.
And that's one like somebody was, because I do give a lot of book recommendations. I have people that come and I don't read. It's all audible. And someone was like, what are the last 12 books you read? And I'm like, I'm actually trying to read one book a year over and over.
And study it.
And like right now, it's this one. But that Never Split the Difference is one that I'll go back to often, especially if I'm going into a conversation that's like with someone at work. Because it's really easy to read that and then you like go into a conversation and you didn't do any of it.
Yeah.
Like I've had a couple hard conversations lately with some business things outside of Saatchi, and I like literally made a ChatGPT Chris Boss bot to talk to. And so I like fed the whole book to it and then outlined my issue, and then we just had a conversation back, and it was incredible. I mean, ChatGPT is a really good tool if you use it correctly, but it helps so much, because then I was able to excuse me, have all the questions preloaded, so that I could reference this thing instead of, because a lot of times you were like amped up to go into a room and then you forget everything because they asked the one question you didn't think about.
Yeah, and you're running off of reaction.
Yeah, and you're not listening at all. It's the same with like a fight with your wife or whatever. It's like this is one thing we learned in our marriage class, is like when you get into an argument with someone and you're fighting to win, the person you love the most in the world loses. What? I don't want that. And so then you're in this argument and you're waiting for them to stop talking so you can just say your point instead of listening. And so that's where mirroring comes in. It's like, so what I hear you saying is that you're frustrated about me not loading the dishwasher correctly. And then they have to say that again. I was like, nope, that's not the reason why I'm upset. I'm pissed because of something yesterday.
Seems like.
Yeah. That's such a good book. I need to read that one again.
Yeah,
that should be like once a month read.
Yeah, also if you're listening to this, I recommend not actually physically reading it. I recommend listening to it, because he actually changes the voice fluctuations. It's just a different vibe when you listen to it, because it's so heavy with conversation.
Yeah,
he does a really good job at like
the tone.
Within that audiobook.
His chapter on tone is like silly, and they call it the radio voice.
The midnight radio voice,
Yeah, and that's why sometimes with certain podcasts, depending on the guest, I will not do like 1.25, 1.52 or whatever. I'll keep it at 1, because I'm not. Yes, I'm listening to what they're dropping, but I'm listening how they're saying things. Because sometimes how we say it alone just breaks everything.
You listen to, do y'all listen to Smartless? It's a podcast. It's Jason Bateman, Sean Hayes, and Will Arnett.
Oh, nice.
Now we're going to have to listen to it.
And they have, like, if it's the three of us, I'll have a guest on that you guys don't know until they reveal. So they'll have, like, a cold intro, and then they'll be like, okay, and then they'll tee up the guests, and then, like, they reveal the person. Well, if you listen to it at 1.5, they're all comedians. You don't get the comedic timing of any of the jokes. And so it just spews together. So you have to listen to it at 1, like regular speed. And so it's just like that, like the inflection of the voice and the timing, the how the joke hits, and like, because they just rip on each other for an hour.
Yeah.
And it comes out every day on Monday, and it's the best. Highly recommend that. Just for something to listen to that's not educational, because your brain eventually turns to mush. Like, you have to be entertained.
Yeah, totally.
So I know we're coming up to time, so I will say, this conversation went great. I think that there's a lot of nuggets that people can pull about. Oh, it looks like I haven't done this or something for the past, I don't know how, 200 episodes or whatever. Question for you. What advice, what message, anything that you would like to leave to the world? You could look at that camera right there and give them any message you want.
Advice, I think I'd say stick to what you love. If let's say it's in the cleaning business and it's just not going well, like stay in the grind and do the work. Like, you don't have to do the cold plunge and the 15 push-ups every day and like all the things before you start doing work. Like, get up and start working. Sometimes all that hinders that's an Alex Hormozy thing, but it's like work begets work. And so that's one thing that I'm trying to do this year is like, I don't need to do all these things to get ready for my day. I just need to get up and work.
The farmer mentality.
Yeah.
Farmers don't work out. They just get to work because if the sun hits, if it all ruins everything. So,
I mean, stay in the Word. Like, obviously, wake up, start your day in the Word, and then brush your teeth. Don't forget that. Yeah. But yeah, I hope that's helpful. I mean,
I have one more thing for you, if you don't mind. Do you have anything before I? No? Okay. So if your wife decides, because you sound like you appreciate your wife a lot and you honor her a lot. Sounds like it was like amazing meeting her at church, and
for sure,
I'm sure that story is beautiful in itself. If she did listen to this, she's like, you know what, I'm not gonna listen to all of it. I'm just gonna listen to the end, to see how you wrap it up. What message would you want your wife to get from you being in this podcast?
Oh, dang, that's a good one.
And you can do it right there, and we'll clip it. We'll send you that clip right there, brother.
Shout out Shelby.
Yeah, I mean, I love her so much. Like, she's probably the most talented person and photographer I've seen in a long, long time. And so that's super cool to watch and like grow and learn from her. And she's always like, no, you're better than me. And like, whatever. I just had professional training. Like, I just went to school for it, but like, she's so good at what she does. And so I would just say to her, like, keep doing you. Like, you're the most talented and professional and hardworking person I know. And I love you.
I love it.
Right.
I love it. Hey, if you guys have any events here in Texas and Dallas, you guys need a photographer, a videographer.
That's right.
Hit them up. Hit up his wife so that she can start that she's starting that for Fortune 500. So if you're a Fortune 500 or a business, you just need to throw an event, reach out to them and they'll set them up. Thank you so much. We'll put the link on the show notes, all right?
Awesome, y'all.
Thanks,
are great.
Thanks, brother.
Perfect.